Hi, I'm Marie Hopkinson and I'm a real acupuncturist. I'm going to be reviewing acupuncture on TV and film, so let's go and have a look together. The first one we're going to watch is a commercial. Acupuncture's in some TV shows, not as many as Western medicine is in TV shows. Maybe just not as dramatic. You know, we don't do sort of that life and death, have to do CPR on people and bring them back to life. But there are some misconceptions in what's being showed around, so I thought I would watch these videos and give you my reactions to it. So this is the real reaction. It's actually a commercial for insurance, and you've probably seen it before yourself. Search on YouTube, funny acupuncture commercial, this will come up. So you can see the guys come to a clinic, and this is totally unrealistic because, like, he can't get any informed consent because he obviously doesn't speak the same language as him, as the patient. And the other thing we got to see is, like, so I'm just going to stop this here for a second on this bit. Like, this is impossible to needle, well, not impossible. It's totally unrealistic. This is a terrible ad for acupuncture. And look, it's a kind of a funny thing, but it's not really even funny. And yeah, I guess they're doing it for just like shock purpose. The fact that he's sitting up and being needled on both sides of his body is really, really uncommon. The only time I've ever done this is been like, and I've never used this many needles, but would be if you're demonstrating something in a classroom of students. Where you'd have someone sitting up and you might needle something sitting up. Most people want to lie down and relax with acupuncture. They don't want to sit up and do that. I've seen them sit up and do treatments on people when they're sitting in a chair or sitting on a stool, maybe in China as well. But this is totally unrealistic, having that many needles in you. And yeah, so he's got a lot of needles. Unfortunately, the quality of this video isn't so great. Like I couldn't find a very high res quality, but yeah. So then the next thing is he's running away from the fire. So a fire breaks out, and it shows the guy who runs the clinic kind of running away first, which again is totally unrealistic because as a practitioner, you're going to look after your patients first, and you know, in the sense where there's been a fire drill or something like that, then you're going to make sure those patients are out of there. You're not going to be running and leaving them at a loss. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit funny. So he's run and jumped onto that thing, and then this guy's like, well, okay, how do I let me stabbed with all these needles in there? So yeah. So that's the first one, and that kind of represents a really unrealistic version of what acupuncture is. We wouldn't do that many needles on people for a start. Like it's just really, yeah, bizarre. And that brings me to the next one. The next clip I want to mention is this, the Matrix. Firstly, what happens is this guy's, this is obviously Neo, is being born, reborn out of his Matrix thing. So you see him do that, and yeah, that's, you know, he comes back to life. He goes down the shuttle. And because he hasn't been, obviously he's having the awakening, that's not really, maybe I'm just going to skip through this. And then he realises that everyone's been kept on the pods, and then he's basically rescued and loses all his contact. Now, because he's never used his physical body before, his muscles have atrophied. They're not really very strong. So that's what they're going to use acupuncture for in this situation. A lot of patients who, when they say they mention that they're scared of needles, I say, oh, it's not like The Matrix, and they know exactly what I mean, because this was such a popular movie. This is the first Matrix, and they put him into this, like, you know, healing situation. So they put all this light on him to kind of bring his body back, and then this is where the acupuncture scene kind of starts here. And he says to them, why does my eyes hurt? And Morpheus is like, well, you've never used them before. This scene here, so we're just going to pause it at that. How do we pause it? Pause it. There we go. This scene here with all those needles in him is again unrealistic. I mean, he's got all these plug holes in him because he was in the Matrix, so that's not from acupuncture. But the fact that these giant, thick needles are used, it wouldn't be unrealistic to use this kind of treatment, I guess, in this situation. So it wouldn't be unrealistic to use acupuncture for someone who's got severe muscle atrophy, or just to stimulate their body back to recovery. And certainly for like athletics type of situations, that's used quite a lot. But like this, just it's obviously for the movies, but again, people think that's what acupuncture is, and it just looks really scary. It looks really painful, because there's so many needles. As soon as you say the word needle, and you can see that just in this, that the needles are thick, and that's not the thickness that acupuncture needles are. So you're assuming that they're hurting. Obviously it's a sci-fi movie, it's not real life. But the other thing is, all these needles are hooked up to this electric stimulator, which is totally plausible. So this is, in some ways it's possible, but it's just because they're using such long needles that it makes it just look crazy and really way too out there. So if you're a person watching this, and you're wondering if acupuncture is going to be for you, then please don't think that this is acupuncture. That's probably the number one myth that I find patients have. Like when I say, if they're a bit scared of acupuncture, and they say, oh yeah, it's not like what's in the Matrix, they're like super relieved. And but just by the fact that, like, even if you go back and rewatch this, like I am now, you really think, wow, those needles are really giant, and they're not actually not even acupuncture needles. I don't know what they are. They just look like, I don't know, giant skewers. So it's not really acupuncture. But the stimulation of the points with the electroacupuncture, that is a plausible treatment, and that is used. And that doesn't hurt either. It's kind of similar to a TENS machine, where you might feel like a sort of situation on the points, or even sometimes the muscles kind of twitching. If you've ever been on one of those muscle stimulation machines, slimming machine kind of things, then it's very, like a TENS machine, it's very similar to that. So anyway, that is, if we just go back to that, that is crazy amount of needles, and totally not what acupuncture is. These needles look smaller. These probably are on the side of his head, but I don't know why they're stuck into little pads. Maybe some kind of electrodes or something, some sort of, just for special effects. You don't need those little pads when you do acupuncture, but these needles do look small enough to be possibly real acupuncture needles. Anyway, so that's the Matrix. So they're the main ones, and the biggest thing is, like, is acupuncture really scary? So that's the answer to that is that is not a realistic representation of acupuncture. So that's my reaction to that one. Okay, now the next one I want to do is this movie. This just came out last year. It's called Kung Fu Panda, and it's actually like a remake of the Wong Fei-Hong movies.
哇，师傅连鬼都打过。
阿杰，快把他送入。
I don't know why there's not much acupuncture in movies. It could be used more dramatically, I guess. It's very much a part of Chinese culture, and I guess they accept it more, or they know it more, and I've seen it a lot more used in Chinese movies. This one I'm going to show you is a Chinese movie, and this is a really recent one. So if you're a fan of Kung Fu, you would know the Wong Fei-Hong series of movies. So Once Upon a Time in China, that was Jet Li was playing Wong Fei-Hong, which is like a really famous doctor in China. So like around the Qing dynasty, just before the movies are set in the era where the Westerners, like the English, are kind of invading or trying to colonize parts of China or come to China, and and then there's this war between the Chinese and the foreigners, and there's a lot of fights in those movies. Like, obviously they're kung fu movies, so there's a lot of kung fu fights, but there's these fights between these like sects that hate Westerners, Lao-wise, and so anyway, that's not what I wanted to point out, but they do have a lot of Chinese medicine in these movies. So this is a remake that was done. Vincent Zhou's the one that's playing the Wong Fei-Hong, and like he does a really good job of this, and he was Wong Fei-Hong after Jet Li quit the movies as well. So anyway, so there's good Chinese medicine. what happens is he has this fight with this guy that just rocks up at his house, at his clinic house, and this is the fight. So because this guy's like just completely and so he's trying to fight him. He's saying, oh, this guy's.
哇，师傅连鬼都打过。
Anyway, so he has this fight with him. Hits him in the head, knocks him
快把
out.
他送入诊室。
Anyway, so he knocks this guy out, and then it flashes to some other scene, and then next thing, this scene now where he's the Wong Fei Hong's in his clinic, and he's so he's beating him up, and now he's gonna fix him. But what's really good about this is the Chinese medicine in it is pretty. It looks pretty realistic, because often they don't. So anyway, the way he's doing the pulse is pretty accurate. Like the position's pretty good. So I thought that was good. Sometimes I don't do it properly. So anyway, he's fixing this guy, and there's actually some pretty cool Chinese medicine. They do cupping and herbs and stuff. So anyway, he's just basically saying we don't know what's wrong with him, and then Wong Fei Hong has to go somewhere, pick up Auntie Yi, cousin Yi, or whatever. He's kind of falling in love with her, but yeah. Okay, so where's that Chinese medicine bit? So here. It's pretty realistic for the time, actually. So they were using fire to sterilise the needles. Obviously, we don't do that anymore. We just use single-use disposable needles. And actually, in this scene, the cousin Yi is studying Western medicine, and she's coming in, and she basically says to him, "What are you doing?" In a minute, she's saying, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" And he's like, oh, I don't really know what's wrong with him. And then she's saying, oh, you can't sterilise the needles like that because you're using, these ancient methods. We've got new methods now. We've got Western medicine now. And, he's saying, oh, I don't need that. And then she's sort of saying, well, and this is classic of this era, like basically the West is so good, the West is coming in, and she's obviously dressed as a Westerner, which was pretty uncommon in those times, like obviously not from around here, and they're wearing the traditional Chinese costumes or outfits or clothing that they normally would wear. But this is pretty accurate about how they're doing the acupuncture, just aside from anyway. Then he just goes into a bit of a rant about Chinese medicine's been around for so long, and it's even though some simple formulas can treat some complex problems and stuff like that. So she's getting all annoyed now because he's not needing the Western medicine. This guy's, I don't know, he's like his little psychic. He's just a bit nutty. I don't know why he's doing that. I think that's Clubfoot, the character in these shows. He's got a clubfoot. That's what I call him, Clubfoot. Anyway, he's trying to fall in love with her. I mean, he is falling in love with her. They like each other. I think they end up getting married at some point in this series. But this is basically a remake of the overall of the movie. It's a really actually very well done movie, hang on, I think it's after that.
13医院吃饭了。
来了。Something happens to the guy. He goes.
师傅，
师傅，你看。
That's not acupuncture. So she gives him some kind of Western medicine, trying to fix him. Anyway, I'm not trying to synopsize this movie for you, but it is good. Something happens. He's having a reaction to the drug she gave him, trying to cure him. Supposedly he's been poisoned, and now they're going to do fire needling. So this is actually pretty accurate how they're doing that for that time. They use big needles and stick it in. So it looks really cool, it looks pretty barbaric, but I think you probably wouldn't needle that deeply on the back, like not stabbing it in like that as like to their lung. But you can needle like that far in. So what they're doing is bleeding cupping here. I mean this is cool for a movie because it looks pretty amazing. We just would use gloves when we do that, and not many practitioners in Australia probably do that anymore just because of the bleeding. Like patients don't like to be bled, and also like you need to have a really strong patient to be able to do that on. Like you wouldn't just use it willy-nilly because you're going to bleed them, they're going to be more depleted afterwards. And so like bleeding's really similar to sweating. So if you have a fever and you get sick and you're sweating and you're losing fluids, you know bleeding's like a worse version of that. So you don't really necessarily want to do that, but so he's trying to expel the toxin from his body basically by doing this. So they're using the fire cupping. Now this is also pretty accurate, except we just don't use these wooden cups anymore because of sterile issues, basically. And now he's kind of
他
like
身上
half
的毒
recovered, but
大部分都已经清除出来了，不过有
he
些后遗症。
basically says he's always going to be an idiot. Like he's going to be simple. Something mentally has happened to him. Anyway, so yeah, it's a really interesting movie. This is called Kung Fu Alliance, and it just came out last year. I think you can probably. It's a bit hard to find it, I guess, because if you're it's on some of those Chinese websites where you can watch them online. Yeah, so that's cool. And there are some versions I found with English subtitles around. But that is probably one of the best. It's got the best Chinese medicine in it. There's a bit of herbs in there as well, where they're boiling up some herbs and giving it out. Yeah, so that's the China. That's pretty for the time of the treatments. It's pretty accurate. So now that we're on the idea of on the prowl of Kung Fu. The other one that's really commonly known is Kung Fu Panda. That was the sensei.
And now he has a chance to make things right, to train the true dragon warrior. And he's stuck with you. A big, fat panda who treats it like a joke. Oh, that is it!
Wait! My fault! I accidentally tweaked his facial nerve!
Okay, so again, right, so it starts off with just looking pretty normal in terms of he's got a little needle there, pretty normal, and obviously a little creature's giving him that.
Like a joke.
Okay, so this is a classic Chinese medicine thing.
I accidentally tweaked his facial nerve.
I accidentally tweaked his facial nerve. Like, that can't happen. You can't stick a needle in someone and they go, like crazy like that. I don't think you can do that. It's just, yeah, I mean, if you cause someone pain, and yeah, you did stab into their nerve, they probably would go like that, but they wouldn't be. Their face wouldn't be stuck like that. Again, this typical Matrix situation, right? That's what people think acupuncture is, being treated as a human porcupine, and that is what they're showing: a human porcupine or a panda porcupine. So that is again unrealistic, and we would never stick that many needles in to people. And that obviously sticks in people's minds because I've had patients just mention that to me. Oh, is it going to be like Kung Fu Panda? Is it going to be like the Matrix? Okay. Thanks very much for watching Real Acupuncturist Reviews Acupuncture in TV and Film. It's been a pleasure to share these videos with you. Hopefully you've been informed and you enjoyed that. Leave a comment in the comments below. You can subscribe to my channel, and if there's another video that you'd like me to review or a commercial, then you can pop the link in the comments below. And have a great day. Enjoy your acupuncture. Hi, thanks very much for watching Real Acupuncturist Reacts to acupuncture on TV and film. I hope you've learned something and hope you had a little bit of fun along the way. Please join me for my next video by subscribing to my channel, and if you want to, you can leave a comment in the comments below. Thanks, have a great day.